Hey y'all, this is the second in my two-part series on using script fonts in VCarve Pro, but everything I'm going to show you also works in V Carve Desktop and Aspire. So if you missed the first part, I'll put a link in the description box below. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to create some text and get into doing some kerning, which is adjusting the spacing and alignment of the letters in the font so that everything flows nice and smooth. You'll see what I mean as we get into it. So let's head for the computer and get into it. All right?
Okay, as you can see, I've got this file loaded up here. This is just some text that I wrote here in the Draw Text window. I'm using English script EF, and this is the text that I typed. Now, I have the text centered. When I created it, I anchored it to my X0, Y0, and what that did was that basically centered all the text right here along X0, but when it comes to Y0, what it does is it places the base of the font right on the 0 line. The top line you type rather, will be right here on this center line. It's not necessarily centered or aligned to the material. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that by aligning selected objects and centering it up that way. That way I know we're right in the middle of my workpiece. Now, I mentioned before that these overlaps were easy to clean up and easy to take care of. We need to remember that script fonts were meant to mimic handwriting or calligraphy. So we're supposed to have a nice smooth flow, for instance, from this A and up into this M, and then again down into this P, etc., etc. So if you're going to just straight V-carve this with no other modifications or editing, it will probably work out okay. But if you're going to be doing any other kind of work, if you're going to be engraving this, or if you're going to, say, join something together and do an outside profile cut, to cut this out to hang on a wall, you'll need to have these joined up. Otherwise it's going to, for instance, it'll cut out this capital S, then it'll come over and cut out this small a, then it'll come over and cut out this M, following these vectors here that come into these other letters. So we'll need to clean them up and make this all one piece here. It's fine to hang this separately and then hang this as a separate piece as well. So in order to do that, we're going to get into a process that in the printer's world is called kerning, and that's Kerning. And you know, that's something, if you want to make friends and influence people or just make something sound more important than it really is, that's the term that you use. Basically, it's nothing more than just adjusting spaces and adjusting orientation slightly to correct for errors or just make things flow a little bit easier. So how are we going to do it? Well, in the first place, there are only a few tools that you can use while this is a text object, and that's what it is. It's considered an image object, actually. And I can't select just that T. I have to, no matter what I click on, it selects everything. Well, if you watched my previous video about using dingbats, you'll know that we can come down here and we can fit curves to the selected vectors. But there's an easier way to convert these to curves, and one way is to come up over here to this icon under Create Vectors and Convert Object to Curves. Another way is to just simply select the text and then right click and convert to curves. Now both the icon and this method do exactly the same thing. It just converts all of these into separate curves. Now you notice the solid pink line changed to a dashed line. That tells me that now all of these are separate vectors that can be edited, manipulated, just like any other vector would be able to. So now I'm going to have to zoom in and out here a little bit to show you what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum because I don't want to make anybody seasick. But when you start getting into kerning, all we're looking for basically is a smooth transition here. Now you notice that the tail of this, the letter H here, flows into this I, and this tail goes in quite a bit. That's fine. We don't have any strange corners sticking out over here, so we don't really need to do anything with this. But where the S meets the I, however, we do have some problems. And, you know, it has to do with alignment, and it also has to do with positioning. Now, we can move it and rotate it slightly, and that'll help somewhat. I'm going to go ahead and grab hold of this rotate bar and kind of turn it a little bit. I don't want to turn it too much because I don't want it to look out of place. But I can turn it somewhat, and then I'm going to zoom in here a little bit closer, and I'm using my cursor left key to kind of bring it over, and that's a little bit better. We've got a nice straight line up here on top. Now I know this is, it doesn't meet up very nicely here, but we can fix that with the next process that I'm going to get into. I click off of the vector, and the next process I'm going to get into is I'm going to get into welding these together. And the way I'll do that is I'll just select the bottom portions here. Now you'll notice that I'm not touching the dot, and I'm not touching this inner profile here, which creates a little island here. I don't want to include that in the weld process, because if I do, it can cause problems down the road. So we'll go over, we've got all of our vectors selected that we want to weld together, and we'll come over here under Edit Objects, and there is Weld Selected Vectors. Now if I just click that button, what it's done is it's taking those three separate objects and it's joined them together. Click off of it so you can see the black line here. And that has got a nice smooth transition there, nice smooth transition here. This part of the I to S transition is nice and smooth, but if we get down in here, we see we've got this stray little thing. Now, again, if we're going to V-carve it, it's probably no big deal, but if we're going to cut this out in a profile cut, it might cause a problem. So I'm going to do a little bit of node editing. And to do that, I'll just select the vector, then on my keyboard I type the letter N. And you see here that we have, it's turned on the points that are vectors that are used to connect the vectors, the spans of the vector from one to the other. And I can, you also notice that my cursor is changed to an arrow point without the shaft. That lets me know, plus these dots, these points, that lets me know I'm in node editing. Now if I bring my cursor right up here, you'll see that little swirly tilde right there that shows up. It lets me know I'm on the vector. I can right click and delete that span. Then take hold of one or the other. And you'll notice here, just as a brief aside, you'll notice that this vector is black, this point is black, and that just means it's a point. But this one is green. That means it's a starting point. That means that's where a bit would come down and plunge in and start the cut right here. Well, we're going to drag this vector right over on top of this one. Now that just kind of made an awkward little bend, but that's okay because we can fix that as well. And the way we'll fix that is delete that point. much smoother, much smoother. So now I can click off, right click to get out of node editing, or I could have hit my N on my keyboard. Click on this vector and we look pretty smooth there. We look pretty smooth. I don't know, I still kind of don't like that. It looks like there may be a little bit of a bulge. So go ahead and hit node editing again. I'm just going to grab this and lift it up just a little bit. Back off. That looks a lot better. That looks much, much better. So we have a nice smooth flow. Right click to deselect, right click again to exit node editing mode. Now we have a nice smooth piece of script there. We have no joins here to worry about, so I'm not going to worry about them. Down here we can also weld these together, and again I'm just dragging from right to left to grab hold of the outlines. Before I do that, I need to zoom in here and take a look. We have the tail completely in. The tail on this one is completely inside of this vector here. This one not so much. So what I'll do is I'll check this one here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lasso all of these here, and I'm going to zoom in real close, and I'm going to use my cursor right button and just kind of nudge these over to where that's completely inside of this vector. Click off, sit back and take a look, and it doesn't look like I've moved anything at all actually. Now we'll go ahead and we'll gather all these up again, not touching these inner island cuts. Come over here and weld. And once again, we've created one closed vector. Now my joins look nice and smooth. I don't think I need to do any node editing here. And then we'll come over here to this one. The T could stand to move over just slightly. And I'll bump. There we go. That one looks good. Now again here we have a mismatch. So I will grab both of these and move over here to the move, scale, and rotate selection. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have two objects selected. Now I'm going to kind of zoom in here a little bit and just turn this E, rotate this E just a little bit. I don't want to make it look too out of place. Now I'll come along and nudge using my cursor right key, cursor down, go back to the left a little bit. You just kind of play with it somewhat. And that's going to look okay right there. And we'll have some node editing to do here to kind of smooth this out. So click out of here, go back to my standard selection tool. And now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and trim these two. I'm not going to weld this. Trim these two so that it automatically joins this. Now I'll select, hit N on my keyboard, and I can see I'm deciding. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I will delete that point. Maybe I won't. Let me delete that point. There we go. That worked better. That kind of smooths that out. Let me see what happens if I delete this point as well. That smoothed that out quite a bit. Now if I delete this point, this is where I got to stop and take a look here, because if I delete this point, that will mean that I'll have a connection from this point to this point, which will probably bring this vector way over here. Let me just demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'll delete that point. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, that's not a good thing. So I'll undo that by hitting Control Z. Oh, I see what's going on. I didn't zoom in close enough to see that I have a span here. Let me delete that span. We'll bring this point up here and take a look at that. And it's still not quite what I'm after. So let me go into node editing mode again. Bring them this way just slightly. Take this handle and kind of adjust this out and kind of adjust that out here. We have a smoother transition. I'll grab hold of this and bring it inwards some, and maybe bend this one out just slightly. And what I'm doing is I'm coming out here to this clear point, which is a handle that controls this curve. It controls this point. It has by pulling this handle, by putting my crosshairs here and clicking and then dragging it this way, I'm basically rotating this point a certain amount, just very slightly. Now I'm looking at the flow of this line, and I think that looks much better. They look more even. I don't have that bulge. Let me right click here to deselect, right click again to exit node editing mode. Now we have a nice smooth transition there. This tail is well inside the shaft of the T here, so I'll go ahead and select those two, weld those, click off, and now our text is ready for V-carving. It's ready for profile cutting. Our joins are all look nice and smooth. We have a nice transition between the E and the X and the X and the T. Nice transition from one letter to another down here, and smooth transitions here. So we're ready now, almost ready to calculate toolpaths. One other thing that I like to do, just to kind of smooth things out and make sure that when I select, for example, this here to VCarve, I also pick up all the islands. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and select all of the text and come over here and group those selected objects, which has the effect of turning them back into a single text object. Now when I come over here into my Toolpaths tab, select the VCarve toolpath. I want to use a 60-degree bit for something this thin. I don't want to use a 90-degree bit. What I mean by that is something with lines this thin. I'd like to get some depth of cut with lines that are this thin, so I'll use a 60-degree bit. I don't want to use a flat depth. I'm going to go ahead and accept everything else the way it is. Calculate that toolpath and then preview it. And there we go. Let me go ahead and change my toolpath color to black so that we can see how that cut. And that is a very nice, pretty smooth transition. So, I hope you got something that you can use out of this video. Basically, as I said before, working with script is a little bit different than working with a block style font, whether it be a serif or a sans serif. It just takes a little bit more attention to detail and a little bit more fiddling. But once you get the basic method down, you know, get in and experiment with it, play with it, have some fun with it. And remember, there's nothing in here that can't be fixed. Even if you you think you've totally messed up everything, it's real easy to get into it again, start over, delete it all, and pick something else. Just simply go into draw text, choose your font, however you want it to appear, type your text, and have fun with it. Oh boy, more fun to clean up. I'll play with this off camera. Again, I hope you got something from this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up down below. If you'd like to be notified the next time I upload a video, subscribe to my channel. Now, whether you subscribe to me or not, thank you very much for watching, and take care.